Hi, welcome to Educational Leadership Exchange. This is episode 4, and I'm your host, Kristen Schmidt. In this episode, I sat down with Raymond LeBlanc, the Interim Dean of Education at the University of Ottawa. We discussed what it's like to take over in an interim position, the unique challenges of working in a bilingual university, and the use of technology in leadership. I hope you enjoy. I had a good time talking with Raymond. This podcast is produced and hosted by Kristen Schmidt and founded by Dr. Stephanie Chitpin. The intro and outro music is called Pamjaya by Kevin McLeod. This is Educational Leadership Exchange.
It's easy to do a top-down. You just say, well, this is what I want us to do, instead of let's decide together a master plan of the years to come.
So, what do you do and why?
Presently? Presently, I'm Interim Dean of the faculty.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially it deals with issues of public relations, responsibility for all the programs at the faculty, for research, and for community service.
Oh.
So you're the liaison for all of these, and it's very constructive work. Yeah.
Why do you do it? What motivates
Well, I
you?
was asked so I've been here 35 years, so I know the culture of the university. I've been involved both as a professor of special education for a number of years, vice dean of research, involved in many committees, and when the former dean was asked to become provost, the search for a new dean is a long process, and they wanted someone that could serve as a go-between until they find a suitable new dean. So I was asked, and I accepted because it was a sort of a challenge, a new experience, and I said, why not?
Do you feel less pressure because it's an interim position?
Absolutely not.
Oh.
I think I consider the work as if I'm not here part-time. It's full-time. I want the new dean to feel that work is continued, and we're improving our services. We have a vision. We have a strategic plan.
Sounds like something you talk about a lot then.
Constantly, and it's always in draft form. It's always needs improvement. And there's so many things to do. and I think we can get lost in the forest if we don't strategize.
Yeah. Do you find that people get fatigued of the word strategic plan? Oh, not again.
But they not fatigued, but I would say intrigued by the fact that it's a long process. It's not an easy process to put in place, because it needs a lot of reflection, and it needs a lot of consultation. It's not a top-down process. It's a bottom-up process, and I've noticed that when you do bottom-up, it takes a lot of time. It's easy to do a top-down. You just say, well, this is what I want us to do, instead of let's decide together a master plan of the years to come.
This is episode 4 of Educational Leadership Exchange. You're listening to my conversation with Interim Dean in the Faculty of Education at the University of Ottawa, Dr. Raymond LeBlanc. I was really interested to hear him speak to leadership styles that involve working from the bottom up. Sometimes leaders run into trouble when there are too many voices and opinions involved in making decisions. So I wanted to get Dr. LeBlanc's take on organizing all voices. A quick note. There was some significant construction happening at the university when we recorded the interview, so you may hear some construction noises in the background. Apologies. How do you organize everyone's opinions?
Well, that's a good question. I guess, and so I'm a qualitative methodologist, so you become sort of you draft what the group has proposed, and then you share it, and you say, do you have comments? Would you like things to be added, to be subtracted? And then you rework it, you resubmit it until people are satisfied. And if the climate of the organization is positive, usually you'll come to a point where you say, well, okay, that's it. It's not perfect, but it makes sense. And everyone, we agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's so good. Do you ever find that there's a conflict in email writing, that you need to talk to the person in person?
Yes.
Okay.
I can give you a concrete example. There's someone who's on sick leave and wanted to know if when he will come back, return to work, and it's time-wise it's important to know, and so on. So I sent an email saying, well, look, could you respond, because the person is far away. It's a compassionate leave, taking care of family and so on, and say, well, are you coming back or not? And I got a reply saying, woof, this seems to be very urgent. It's for May. It's not the fact that it was urgent. It was the fact that I wanted them just to respond, to give us a decision at a set time. But it was misread by, and I just replied, saying, well, look, no, I just wanted to know that you've received this email and you're thinking about it and you can make a decision. If it was face-to-face, in conversation, it becomes constructive. Emails is always, there's always missing information.
Do you find that that's something that people should just know for common sense, or it's something that you need to develop?
Yeah, I think you need to develop. You need to develop. If it was someone, this is an employee. If someone is a friend, it's very easy to say, well, I think, hey, take it easy, but that's not the case, and you would come to a resolution very quickly. When you're dealing with labor issues and so on, it's more complex.
This is episode 4 of Educational Leadership Exchange. You're listening to my conversation with Interim Dean in the Faculty of Education at the University of Ottawa, Dr. Raymond LeBlanc. I was really glad that Dr. LeBlanc spoke about learning when technology can make things easier and when it can fail. On one hand, you have the opportunity to communicate quickly with many people. On the other, you risk sounding insensitive to employees' needs. It's an interesting balance that leaders need to find. If you've had any thoughts on this that you'd like to share, feel free to send us an email at cpln@cpln.info. Next, I asked Dr. LeBlanc about the struggles he faces in a bilingual work environment. one of the unique things about the University of Ottawa is that it's a bilingual university, and that's very exciting and special. Yes. How do you balance having a team that's French and English? Is everyone bilingual? Or
well, it depends how you define no. I think everyone is passively in the second language. To tell you the truth, all francophones are bilingual, with very minor exceptions. Anglophones, second language, some of them are passively, but at least there's an openness to the other language. Certainly, for a leadership role, you need to be fluently bilingual at the University of Ottawa, with exceptions. There's always exceptions, but you deal with many different communities and so on, and it's always more convivial when you're addressing a community in their native language, that you're comfortable, that your message flows well. You know, you get this also with politicians. I think all politicians in Canada should be bilingual to best serve the interests of the country, and some really are fluently bilingual, and that's wonderful, because they're always, their message flows, and it's more difficult when you need to address yourself in the other language and your message is not clear.
Do you find it's hard to balance teams where one party doesn't speak the other party's language? Like is there like a lack of respect? Oh, they don't speak my language.
It's not a lack of respect, but when you need translators to be able to get the message across, and you don't understand how it's transmitted, there's always an element of miscomprehension. It's laborious. I was in Turkey in October giving a series of conferences, and many of the Turkish students, in some contexts, it was done in English, so I could very easily share my thoughts on a number of issues. But when I had to go through a translator, and very often it's a translator, I don't know how strong the person is. First of all, it would take a long, long time. You know, a conference that it would give in an hour, it would take 2 hours, and there was a lapse of time, you know, between message, and it's as if you say, well, am I being well translated, and so on and so forth. So there's a.
I guess you could see the frustration on people's faces, eh?
Well, frustration and saying, well, look, this is a very lengthy process.
So, do you have any research that you do?
Oh, yes.
How do you balance the admin stuff with the research?
I don't balance. I'm not at the moment. It's not. I'm preparing. You have to look at it as a long-term affair, in the sense that I will, when I finish my mandate, I will have a year's leave, and I have already a research project that I will be devoting, not full time, but so it's in incubation. Project is out. I have ethics approval, but it is going to demand international travel. Can't do it now. We'll do it, and I start doing it. I'll be piloting in the next year, 1 or 2. I do life stories, life transitions. It's life history. So I construct stories
That's so interesting.
from interviews of people. So I know that a number of people I wanted to interview, and slowly I'm building. So it's not done now.
It's like a side project almost.
It's at the moment it's a side project. Yes, it's a book that will be coming out.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So we're coming to a close for our interview. I just wanted to ask you one more question.
Yeah.
If you were given a grant of a large sum of money to affect change in education, what would you fund with the money?
I would reduce class size. So that means hiring more profs, more teachers. Because I do feel that large groups tend to be more impersonal, and small groups more personal. I would love that the size of a class, and I know it's very, very expensive, should never exceed 20 students. So it would cost a lot of money.
For a university?
I'm not talking about university. I'm talking more for primary grades, high school.
Yeah. Yesterday was a snow day, and I was teaching 12 children in grade 2.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
We got so much done. I could help every student.
You know, they capped it, the Ontario government, I think in the first grades, it's tapped to, I think,
20.
20. And it's a very costly measure. If we cap it, up to grade 8, maximum 20.
Yeah.
That would be, I guess, an incentive I would
love
put
that.
Forward.
Teaching a grade 8 class, because I think they cap it at 26 now, 25 or 26.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. But that's not the way it's calculated. It's more complicated than that. You can have, for example, 3 classes of grade 8. The average would be not exceed 26. But you can have 129, 24, depending on the number of special needs students. So, yes.
Yeah, plus or minus.
Yes.
People move in, people move out. Yeah. The worst part for grade 8 for me is that they're growing so much, and they start to develop.
It's a very challenging.
Just take up more room in the room.
And if you have in place, the presence is very, very important, and the danger that you get lost in the group. So when you're, I guess, between 15 and 20, you get to know well all of your students.
Well, I really like that. If you ever get a large sum of money, I'll support that venture. Well, thank you very much.
It was a pleasure.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me in episode 4 of Educational Leadership Exchange. If you have any questions, comments, or compliments, you can email us at cpln@cpln.info. Feel free to send us an email, and if you want me to pass on any specific questions to Dr. Raymond LeBlanc, I would be happy to do so. You can also comment below. We would love to hear your thoughts. Once again, it's cpln@cpln.info. Educational Leadership Exchange is hosted and produced by me, Kristen Schmidt. It is a collaboration with the Canadian Principal Learning Network and the University of Ottawa, supervised by Dr. Stephanie Chitpin. Special thanks to Dr. Raymond LeBlanc for his thoughtful interview. This is Educational Leadership Exchange.